In the 1980s, while the world was obsessed with personal computers and pop music, a quieter revolution was happening in the sweltering sugarcane fields of Australia, Brazil, Louisiana, and Florida. Engineers and farming families were building machines that could do in 1 hour what 100 men with machetes could not finish in a day. These were the sugarcane harvesters that changed agriculture forever. Iron beasts that ate cane fields whole and transformed an industry built on back-breaking human labor. Number 10. The Toft 6000 Series. To understand the sugarcane harvesters of the 1980s, you have to start with the family that invented the entire industry, the Toft brothers of Bundaberg, Queensland, Australia. The story begins during World War II, when Australia's young men were called away to fight, leaving the sugarcane fields desperately short of labor. In response, brothers Alan and Colin Toft developed a mechanical cane loader from scrap metal and a cannibalized Model T Ford. It was essentially a simple mobile crane with a grab to lift cane bundles onto a truck. Within 2 years, the brothers had devised their first mechanical whole-stalk harvester using a 25-horsepower tractor, and by 1944, they were cutting 80 tons of sugarcane a day. The Toft 6000 Series, developed in 1977, represented a massive leap forward. This was the machine that replaced the complex mechanical drives of earlier models with hydraulic systems, and it became an undisputed leader in the sugarcane harvester world. The hydraulic drive simplified maintenance, improved reliability, and gave operators smoother control over cutting and feeding functions. By the time the 6000 series was in full production in the early 1980s, Toft Bros employed more than 760 workers in Bundaberg and was exporting machines around the globe. More than 3,550 units of the 6000 and 7000 series machines were exported from the Bundaberg assembly line to sugar-producing countries worldwide. The Toft 6000 was the machine that proved mechanical sugarcane harvesting could work on an industrial scale, and it laid the foundation for everything that followed. Number 9. The Toft 7000 Series. If the 6000 series proved that mechanical harvesting could work, the Toft 7000 series proved that it could work brilliantly. Manufactured by Toft Industries beginning in 1985, the Series 7000 was a genuine game-changer for the global sugar industry. Its most revolutionary achievement was the ability to handle green cane, unburned sugarcane, in commercial quantities. Before the 7000, most mechanical harvesters required the cane to be burned before harvesting, a practice that was fast becoming environmentally unacceptable. The 7000 changed that equation entirely. The machine delivered a clean sample when harvesting green cane, reduced fuel usage by an astonishing 40% compared to previous models, provided a comfortable operating environment for the driver, and increased overall productivity by more than 50%. Those are not incremental improvements. Those are the kind of numbers that transform an entire agricultural sector. The 7000 series was developed in Australia and quickly found markets in Brazil, India, China, Sudan, Papua New Guinea, and throughout Southeast Asia. The machine was so successful that when the Toft company was reclaimed by Australian interests in 1986 and rebranded as Austoft, the 7000 series became the flagship product of the new brand. Today, the descendants of the 7000 series, built under the CH Austoft name, cut around 500 million metric tons of sugarcane per year across the globe. That extraordinary number traces directly back to the engineering breakthroughs achieved in the 7000 series during the mid-1980s. As one Case IH executive put it, the Austoft 7000 series sugarcane harvester that was developed in Australia in the 1980s revolutionized sugarcane harvesting around the world. Number 8. The Massey Ferguson 305. Massey Ferguson's involvement in sugarcane harvesting is one of the great underappreciated stories in agricultural machinery history. The connection between Massey Ferguson and cane harvesting goes back to the legendary Sunshine Harvester Works in Australia, founded by Hugh Victor Mackay, who invented the combine harvester in 1884. Mackay's company merged with Massey Harris in 1930 and by the mid-1950s, the operation had been absorbed by Massey Ferguson. In 1967, Massey Ferguson took over Crichton Industries at their Bundaberg plant and transferred all cane harvesting machinery production there. The MF201 Combine Chopper Harvester had already won the Prince Philip Prize for Australian design in 1971, a prestigious recognition that put Massey Ferguson on the map as a serious player in cane harvesting technology. The 201 was powered by a Perkins V8 510 engine and was a self-propelled machine that represented a major step forward from the earlier tractor-mounted harvesters. Building on the success of the 201, Massey Ferguson developed the 205 and then the larger 305 model. The 305 was essentially the design template around which modern sugarcane harvesters were built. It incorporated the self-propelled chopper harvester concept, with improved extractor fans for cleaner cane delivery, more powerful hydraulics, and a more robust chassis capable of handling the heavy loads encountered in commercial harvesting operations. Although Massey Ferguson's Australian cane equipment manufacturing ended in 1986, a casualty of the financial difficulties that plagued the parent company throughout the 1980s, the 305's design DNA lived on in machines built by other manufacturers. The Bundaberg factory site itself is now listed on the Victorian Heritage Register, a testament to the significance of the work that was done there. Number 7. The Cameco CH Series. On the other side of the world from Bundaberg, in the sugarcane country of southern Louisiana, another company was building harvesters that would become legends in the American sugar industry. Cameco Industries, the name stood for Cane Machinery and Engineering Company, was founded in 1965 in Thibodaux, Louisiana. The company's very first product was a sugarcane harvester, and from day one, Cameco machines were designed specifically for the unique conditions of Louisiana's sugar belt. Southern Louisiana receives an average of 68 inches of rainfall every year, which creates extraordinarily challenging harvesting conditions. The cane fields are often thick mud, and conventional wheeled equipment simply cannot operate effectively. Cameco addressed this by designing harvesters that could handle these brutal conditions, machines with tracked undercarriages or specialized tire configurations that could navigate the muck without getting hopelessly stuck. Through the 1980s, Cameco refined its chopper harvester designs, building machines with capacities ranging from 30 to over 100 tons per hour, depending on the model and conditions. The Cameco harvesters became the go-to machines for Louisiana sugar producers who valued their ruggedness and their ability to work in conditions that would strand lighter equipment. The company's reputation grew to such an extent that in 1997, John Deere purchased 49% of Cameco, with the intention of acquiring the remaining stake the following year. Neville Toft, a member of the legendary Australian Toft family, was instrumental at Cameco in designing the CH2500 and CH2600 billet sugarcane harvesters that took the industry by storm. The marriage of Australian harvesting expertise with Louisiana engineering know-how produced some of the most effective cane harvesters ever built. Today's John Deere sugarcane harvesters trace their lineage directly back to those Cameco machines of the 1980s and 1990s. Number 6. The Dedini-Austoft Chopper Harvester. The Brazilian sugarcane industry in the 1980s was undergoing a transformation that would reshape global sugar and ethanol production for decades to come. And at the center of that transformation was a partnership between two companies, Dedini and Austoft. In 1978, Dedini, a traditional Brazilian manufacturer of capital goods for the sugar and alcohol sector, joined forces with the Australian Austoft operation and began production of the first nationally built harvesters in Campinas, São Paulo state. Initially, these machines were mounted on tractors and harvested whole, burned sugarcane. By 1979, the factory had been transferred to Piracicaba, and the machines had evolved into self-propelled units that could also harvest chopped and burned sugarcane. In 1980, Dedini bought the Brazilian operation from Austoft outright and became known as Dedini Máquinas e Sistemas. This was a pivotal moment. It marked the beginning of Brazil's transition from predominantly manual harvesting methods to mechanized systems, driven in large part by the country's rapidly expanding ethanol production program. The Dedini-Austoft Chopper Harvesters of the early to mid-1980s were the machines that proved mechanical harvesting could work in Brazil's massive cane fields. They were painted green and yellow, the colors of Brazil, and they became symbols of the country's agricultural modernization. The machines had to contend with enormous scale, varied terrain, and the demands of an industry that was growing at a staggering pace to feed Brazil's national alcohol fuel program. In 1989, the Ometo Group acquired the harvester line from Dedini, renaming the operation Engueiro. This was another important milestone, as it kept the technology in Brazilian hands and continued the development of machines specifically optimized for Brazilian conditions. The legacy of those Dedini-Austoft machines can be seen in every modern Brazilian cane harvester working today. Number 5. The Toft CH200 Chopper Harvester. Before the 6000 and 7000 series transformed the industry, one Toft model had already proven that chopper harvesting was the future. The CH200, introduced in 1968, the Toft CH200 was the world's first commercially successful chopper harvester, and it changed the entire philosophy of sugarcane harvesting overnight. Before the CH200, every mechanical harvester on the planet was a whole stalk machine. It cut the cane and delivered it intact to be transported to the mill. The CH200 did something radically different. It cut the cane, chopped it into short billets right there in the field, and loaded those billets directly into a transport vehicle traveling alongside. That single innovation eliminated an entire step in the harvest chain and made handling, loading, and milling vastly more efficient. The machine also featured a cleaning system to remove trash from the billets, meaning mills received cleaner raw material. The CH200 was followed by the larger CH250 and then the CH364, a beast powered by two six-cylinder International engines. The commercial impact was staggering. Following the CH200's debut, Toft brothers soon occupied 90% of the world's chopper harvester market. Sales rocketed from $1.66 million in 1970 to $18.5 million in 1975, a tenfold increase driven entirely by chopper technology demand. Every chopper harvester built since, every Austoft, Case IH, John Deere, Cameco, and Santal, traces its fundamental operating principle back to the CH200. The whole stalk harvester did not disappear entirely, but the CH200 showed the world that chopping cane in the field was the future, and the entire industry followed. If the Toft brothers' wartime invention was the birth of the industry, the CH200 was the moment it learned to walk. Number 4. The Don Mizzi Cane Harvester. Not all the brilliant cane harvesters of the 1980s came from large corporations. Some of the most innovative machines were built by individual farmers and small engineering firms who understood the practical realities of cane harvesting better than anyone. The Don Mizzi Harvester is a perfect example. Built in the Mackay region of Queensland, Australia, the Don Mizzi models were tractor-mounted harvesters designed for the specific conditions of smaller Australian cane farms. The 741 model, for instance, was paired with a Fiat 750 special turbo tractor and could be fitted with Massey Ferguson 102 half-tracks for improved traction in soft field conditions. These were not mass-produced machines, built in gleaming factories. They were purpose-built, practical tools designed by people who actually harvested cane for a living. The tractor-mounted configuration meant that farmers who already owned a suitable tractor could add harvesting capability without the enormous capital outlay required for a self-propelled harvester. This made mechanized harvesting accessible to smaller operators who might otherwise have been forced to continue manual cutting. The Don Mizzi and similar small manufacturer harvesters played a crucial role in Australia's transition to becoming the first country in the world to convert entirely to mechanical cane harvesting. That is an extraordinary distinction. No other major sugar-producing country achieved complete mechanization, and it was accomplished not just by the big manufacturers like Toft and Massey Ferguson, but by dozens of small operators and engineers who built machines tailored to their local conditions. In the Mackay, Bundaberg and Innisfail regions of Queensland, the 1980s saw a flourishing ecosystem of cane harvester innovation that was unmatched anywhere else in the world. Number 3. The Santal Chopper Harvester. While Australia and Louisiana were leading the way in chopper harvester design, Brazil was developing its own homegrown machines to meet the unique demands of the world's largest sugarcane producer. Santal was one of the key Brazilian manufacturers that emerged during the 1980s to build sugarcane harvesters specifically designed for Brazilian conditions. The company manufactured chopper harvesters, cutting and piling machines, and various other sugarcane processing equipment. Unlike the imported Austoft designs that Dedini was building under license, Santal machines were developed from the ground up for the Brazilian market. Brazilian cane fields presented unique challenges. The scale was enormous. Brazil was already producing more sugarcane than any other country on Earth. The terrain varied from flat plains to rolling hills, with declivity levels that pushed the dynamic stability limits of harvesting equipment. And the industry was being driven not just by sugar demand, but by the Brazilian government's ambitious alcohol fuel program, which required massive increases in cane production and processing. Santal's chopper harvesters addressed these challenges with robust construction, simplified maintenance requirements suitable for the relatively less developed service infrastructure in rural Brazil, and the capacity to handle the high-throughput demands of Brazilian mills. The machines could process cane into billets of 15 to 40 centimeters in length, loading them directly into transport vehicles traveling alongside the harvester. Santal also developed cutting and spreading machines, the CTE model, and other specialized equipment for the Brazilian sugarcane cycle. While the CTE model is no longer manufactured, it represented an important innovation in its time, handling the base cutting, top cutting, and spreading of stalks in a single pass. Today, Santal remains one of the manufacturers producing chopper harvesters for the Brazilian market, alongside Case CNH, John Deere, and others. The machines they build today owe a direct debt to the engineering work done in the 1980s, when Brazilian manufacturers first proved they could build world-class harvesting equipment domestically. Number 2. The Austoft 7700. When the Toft company was rebranded as Austoft in 1986, it was not just a name change, it was a rebirth. The new ownership brought fresh investment and a renewed focus on innovation, and the Austoft 7700 became the flagship machine that carried the brand into its next era. The 7700 built directly on the revolutionary green cane harvesting capability introduced with the 7000 series, but added refinements that made it even more effective in the field. The machine featured improved extractor fan systems for cleaner cane delivery, enhanced hydraulic drive systems for smoother operation, and a more comfortable operator cabin that reduced fatigue during the long hours of harvest season. What made the Austoft 7700 particularly significant was its role in taking Australian cane harvesting technology to the world. The machine was exported to countries across the globe, from the cane fields of Southeast Asia to the sugar plantations of Africa and the Caribbean. In each new market, the 7700 proved its adaptability, handling different cane varieties, soil types, and climate conditions with equal effectiveness. The 7700 was also the machine that caught the attention of Case IH. When Case IH acquired Austoft in 1996, it was the quality and market acceptance of machines like the 7700 that justified the acquisition. The machines transitioned to the iconic red livery of the Case IH brand the following year, but underneath that new paint was the same Australian engineering that had been perfected over decades in the cane fields of Queensland. Today, with over 400 Austoft sugarcane harvesters working in Southeast Asia alone since the launch of the 8000 series in 2009, the lineage that runs from the Toft brothers through the 7700 to the current machines represents one of the longest and most successful continuous development programs in agricultural machinery history. Number 1. The Ngigro Brastoft Green Cane Harvesting System. At number 1, we come to the system that took Australian engineering, transplanted it into the world's largest cane-producing nation, and created a revolution still reshaping the industry today. The story begins in 1977. When Australian Representative John Pearce arrived in Brazil to develop mechanized harvesting in a country where millions of workers still cut cane by hand in smoke-filled burning fields. In 1978, Brazilian manufacturer Dedini joined forces with Austoft and began producing the first nationally built harvesters in Campinas, São Paulo. By 1980, Dedini had bought out Austoft's Brazilian operation entirely. In 1989, the powerful Ometo Group acquired the harvester line and renamed it Enguiagro, pushing the technology forward for Brazil's massive scale, varied terrain, and growing environmental pressure to end pre-harvest burning. The critical turning point came in 1996, when Enguiagro joined Austoft Australia to create Brastoft, literally marrying Brazil and Australia in one name. For the first time, Brazilian mills had machines that could harvest unburned green cane at commercial scale. This shattered the sugar industry's long-standing argument that no alternative to field burning existed. São Paulo State eventually signed an environmental protocol committing to eliminate pre-harvest burning entirely. In 1997, Case Corporation acquired both Brastoft and Austoft Australia, becoming the first major manufacturer in the global sugarcane harvester market. The numbers tell everything. When John Pearce arrived in 1977, less than 10% of Brazil's cane was mechanically harvested. Within 2 decades of Brastoft's introduction, that figure surged past 98%. Today, those machines cut around 500 million metric tons of sugarcane per year worldwide. Proof that Australian technology married to Brazilian ambition created something neither country could have achieved alone. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments if you have ever seen a vintage sugarcane harvester in action, or if you work in the sugar industry yourself. We would love to hear your stories from the cane fields. Until next time, keep harvesting.